a second, and we'll be live both on Instagram and Facebook pretty soon. Let me pull this down just a little bit more. See how close I am to both Instagram and Facebook. Oh, you can see the bottom of the camera as long as I don't move it. Okay, and we are live everywhere. So everywhere in the world. Hello, how are you? Thank you for joining us in our yet again just a little cozy afternoon. It's getting warmer. It's like 16 degrees or something. 13. So good. Hello, Ute.
Hello.
Ute, today we don't have like 10 minutes of
No.
pre-meeting setup.
No. We have 10 seconds of meeting pre-setup. I think you have to accept me as the guest on Instagram.
I always accept you.
Yeah, but I'm not there yet.
Come on in. Oh, I know why.
Why?
Because I'm live on Ask Tetsu.
This is
on Ask Tetsu. Let me turn this off on Ask Tetsu and go to Raising Multilinguals live.
So what you're saying,
live on the wrong platform. But if you want to follow Raising Multilinguals live, we'll be there in just a second. Give me 1 second.
10 seconds.
End video. Don't share. Discard media.
Okay.
And then I'm going to first change
the setting. Hello, everyone. So
yes.
I see that those who were following us at the beginning already left again. But I hope that you are going to come back. So yes.
How's everybody doing? You're gonna have to, I guess, excuse us as we do this and learn.
Learning by doing. Yes, it will go better if we meet maybe a little bit earlier. We set it up, but it's just life. We sometimes just have other things.
You know what I had to do yesterday? I worked till 1:30, almost 2 a.m. And then I had another meeting at 4. So I got up at 4, did the meeting till 5, went back to bed. And I was supposed to take care of the kids today at 6:30, but my wife, who pulled an all-nighter in her work, says she'll watch the kids until they go to school, and then I take the youngest one at 8:30 to the daycare, and from there I go out to the Walmart and do lots of shopping while she goes to bed, and it's this constant puzzle with the 4 kids with their activities and everything.
It is not easy, especially
Well,
I think you still have to accept me on Instagram.
Yes, once again,
it's just a little click and then I'm in.
No, but I just don't see the.
You don't see that?
Hello, Song Sharon or Songs Heron, Song Sharon, probably Song Sharon, Sharon Song. I suppose that's how it is. She said I finally joined this live chat session.
Thank you.
On time.
Yes.
Well, you're on time and we're not.
We are doing our best with everything that's happening around us. So.
But welcome. Shout out to everybody else. So we do see a few on Instagram and a few on the other platforms. So that's Facebook and YouTube. Hello. It is again Tuesday. Early afternoon for me, early evening for Ute, probably late evening for many of our guests in Asia.
Yes, exactly.
But here we are again this week, just taking a half an hour or two half an hour, so up to 1 hour. Just to say hello to our folks.
Late evening in Germany. You are the same time as I am, so it's 7 o'clock. Late afternoon, maybe, yes. Late afternoon, early evening. Oh well, it depends on. I don't know.
It only has one time zone.
Yes, it's not. It doesn't need more time zones, I think.
In the world, suddenly over the past few years with online work and all that, we've really become much more aware of the time zones. I've been working online with being in Canada and having my job in Japan, I've been very sensitive to the time zones for many years now. But I think the whole world sort of have gotten this heightened awareness
in the last 3
time
years.
zones in the last few years.
Yes. I've always had the converter somewhere as a tab. That's
That's right. We used to have that converter.
Yes, because otherwise I get confused.
But no. Oh, you mean the time converter?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you meant the plugs.
No, the time converter. Because, depending also on the summertime, right? At the moment, that was our issue at some point.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't remember when do they switch time, and then maybe it's a time zone that doesn't go like this, but likely like that, and then I don't remember which countries or which regions are in the given time zone and which one not.
So imagine that. Well, at our age, many people are starting to be sensitive to this, but our kids later in life, we're raising them in the multiple languages, hoping to give them a bright global future where they can go to anywhere in the world. Although we'd like to have them close forever. It's always a struggle. I want them to grow, let them grow their wings, but at the same time, I don't want them to fly too far.
No, exactly. It's a letting go and just still keeping them somewhere closer.
No, they can fly out and fly back and fly out and fly back.
Oh, that's fine. But I always said, a friend of mine who has four children, vier Kinder, and she said the important thing is that they want to come back. And I said, yes, exactly. I don't mind if they go and they have their experience. They need to make their experiences, but I want them to come back and to be happy to come back, and not like, oh my gosh, I need to go and visit my parents.
There was a point in my life where I was taking a flight, an airplane, more frequently than I was taking the bus. Since buses are not very practical here in Quebec. That's one reason. But drive to the airport or get driven to the airport, take a flight out. I take the train a lot more in Japan than buses. So anyway, so hopefully our kids will also find that the global, real, physical distances will be much shorter. As they gain languages and be able to, go to wherever they want, whenever they want, and also, of course, have enough earning power to do that also.
Yes. I see that we have a question from Ismex Steven on YouTube. I shared on again on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook.
To our folks on Instagram, so we can read it out.
And I'm actually going to share another question that I got in my Facebook group, which is International Lounge, this afternoon from someone who had been following us before. But let's focus on Ismek Steven. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Compelling, comprehensible input. What actually do they read? Input. Tons of TV, boring picture books can't compare to cartoons.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you for your question. So repeat to those on Instagram. Yeah, it's a question about comprehensible input, the super famous theory by Dr. Stephen Krashen. And so the question is, what do they actually read, or I guess watch if it's in terms of TV? So what are the type of input that we should give our kids? You want to give it a shot, Ute?
Me? Shall I start?
Up to you.
Okay. Yes, as you mentioned,
I think we're going to say the same things.
Yeah, I think so too. We had exactly. I'm going to repeat what you just said. So we had an interview with Stephen Krashen on comprehensible input on this topic.
Yes, that's the first advice we give to Stephen, I guess.
Yes.
If you can watch our interview with
exactly
Dr. Krashen. It's last year, 2022 January session.
January, yeah. And Saskia from Instagram is responding a little bit with a question. Real life pictures, yes, exactly as well. So comprehensible or compelling input, it's meant just in a nutshell. I know that one could talk about this for hours, but let's say in a nutshell, something that our children understand, that they can relate to. Let's say that your children know everything about. Oh, tell me some topic, Tetsu. I'm doing a blank here. Yeah, of horses or something. Horses, and they have read something about horses. They know all the different body parts of horses and the different things that one needs to know in language blue. And then if you want to provide comprehensible and compelling input for them, because they are into horses, and actually one of my daughters is, then you would provide all kind of input that is about horses in language yellow. So that they can actually anchor what they are learning as a new terms to the terms that they already know, or to the parts of the horse and whatever is related with horses in that way. So you ask tons of TV, boring picture books, can't compare to cartoons. If you say boring picture books, is it you who says boring picture books?
Yeah.
Children who say boring picture books. Yeah. Because sometimes
I find their books very boring, our kids.
Yes, but sometimes our children don't find them as boring as that. So I would ask.
Talent that they have. They could read the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and watch the same, cartoons over and over and over. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yes. So if it's boring for us, maybe it's not for them. But if it's not boring for them, then it's probably already compelling.
That's right.
And that is something
I love
that
word. I love that word, compelling.
Yes.
When Japanese parents ask me what does this mean, I can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it in Japanese. There are words like that where you just can't translate it to another language.
Oh, don't ask me how it's said in Japanese. Seriously, ask me.
You learned Korean, maybe you know in Korean.
Oh,
it's one of those hard words.
No, I'm still at very basic vocabulary in Korean. So
I've also lived through this myself.
Yes.
I used to love everything about Cuba, and I just read so much about everything that was happening in the original language, Spanish. Things that were coming out of Cuba and things that were coming out from the States. All the politics and Fidel Castro. That was lots of that was very fascinating, and I found my Spanish just improving, exponentially. So that's a compelling element, right?
Yeah, so the compelling, you can paraphrase it, or you can describe what is meant with that. It's something that you find interesting, that is understandable because you have enough of vocabulary. You can make sense of what you're reading or watching. You understand the connections between one scene and the other. For example, in a movie, sometimes a movie can also be not compelling if you don't understand why this change of scenery. Are they now going back in time or forwards in time? Is this now? Sometimes that is something that that is also compelling or comprehensible, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I hope. What would you?
Comprehensible. I would add to that, because this second part of his question is boring picture books can't compare to cartoons. And, yes and no, as Ute said, it depends on what's boring for your kids. But it seems like you feel like cartoons or even like comic books could, you might feel guilty to read those. But that's not really an issue at all. And in fact, if you go to the source, go to Professor Krashen, he would talk to you about comic books and how wonderful, Marvel, Spider-Man, all these comic books were in his life, and how that has helped him.
I found, learning Latin, for example, which is a dead language, right? We had a Latin teacher at school, and actually during the whole year, the texts were not so compelling. But right before holidays, he would make us read Asterix and Obelix. That's, I don't know if you know that. It's like comics. And yes, bien sûr, tu connais, in Latin. And that was the moment where I said, finally, because there were pictures of these battles and you could see everything that was described only in texts before. All of a sudden it had a picture. So it was much more compelling, much more enticing to learn more and to And I think many words stick much better in my memory.
Yes.
I can't talk for others, but in my memory than when I had to translate these pages after pages of texts of battles and whatnot and wars. That was not very compelling for me, at least not at that time, but I don't think not even now. So we have other questions, actually. I'm trying to...
David, sorry, we would go on forever, but let's see some questions on Instagram.
So there is Song Sharon. I work in a multilingual kindergarten and I speak to them in English. Meanwhile, other teachers in German. Somehow the children don't really respond to my prompt in English, only in German. Okay, I'm the same. Song Sharon, says Saskia. And then, should I speak to them back to back English and German, although we adopt Oppo method? Thank you. And then this conversation, thank you. You're having a conversation, Saskia and Song Sharon, on Instagram. We respond to my English, not after 1 year, etc. I'm not going to read all of that, but usually, yeah, I imagine kindergarten, they are pretty young. So I would rather suggest that one person, one language, although they might hear you also speak in another language, right?
That's okay.
So that is something that they do. But I once had this situation with a bilingual daycare here in the Netherlands, where teachers had one day the head of the English teacher and the next day the head of the Dutch teacher, and the children don't differ. They don't distinguish the days. They just saw the person, and whatever language they preferred, they would address the person in that language. And so they really had struggled with then having those days where they would use the other language. And of course, not all children chose the same language with them. And this is why it should be, actually, if this is the case in your situation, it would be better to have really one person, one language, and then maybe after a few years you rotate and you change, like they're doing in some schools or daycares here. I don't know if this answers your question.
I fully agree with especially when they're very young, when they don't have the notion of the days or the place where you are, and all these more intellectual things that kids could understand more, just older.
But I also understand the problem if you have a personeeltekort, how you say here in the Netherlands. If you don't have enough teachers, then sometimes one teacher needs to wear two hats. But it's not a good solution, at least not with the youngest ones. A child that is maybe 5 to 6 years, I see that you're saying, Saskia, from 10 months to 6 years, they already can make the distinction, say, oh, okay, so at the beginning of the week you speak that, and the end of the week the other one. But
or maybe 1 week this, 1 week that. I guess somewhere along the way, it's a decision, it's a strategy, and you just need to know what are the trade-offs. Are both languages equally important? If one is much more important than the other and is even harder, then Opal would definitely help you with the weaker one.
Yes, right? She's a Song Sharon. I hope that I pronounce it correctly, your name, or how you are on Instagram. You say it's very difficult because during sleeping time they just don't listen to me. If I tell them in even one German sentence, they stop their craziness and go to sleep. Yeah, I understand that happens. It's usually the other language, because they are like, okay, now it's serious. We have to.
And I think somewhere along the way there was a mention about when you speak different languages to other people. So if the kid sees you speaking different languages, it's not an issue. And that in and of itself is not really an issue. It's really that language that you speak with the target child that's important. That communication channel that you build with that child in whichever language that you decide. But if you give them two languages and you're switching around, then somewhere along the way that the risks of the child deciding to take one over the other is increased.
Is bigger. And especially if you have, I don't know how many children you have in the class, but if you have 10 children, 15 children, it's going to be, they are going to play around with you. They're going to say, I don't want to respond because I don't like that. Like to respond to English. So
yeah, and if they split half the class likes this language, half the class likes the other language.
Yes, but Saskia is saying, okay, bitte jetzt ist Schlafenszeit, Augen zu, bitte. So now it's sleeping time, please close your eyes. And Sharon says she has 10 children. Sometimes it's just a little kind of, I wouldn't say command, it's like a command, or it's a trigger because you want them to do something. Or stand in the line, for example. You can maybe, if that is something that really works, then use that. But for the rest, completely be very coherent and consistent. I would rather be consistent in the choice of the language and really stick to it. And if they do understand what you say, don't they?
Yes. Probably.
If they were not understanding what you say, and this is why you have to switch, this is another thing. But if they understand what you're saying, then it's a little bit resistance. They're playing with you. They know that you can also speak German because you're in Germany, of course. But you can tell them, no, I'm here. I'm speaking English. Or not telling that you're speaking English, but I say, go to sleep. It's sleeping time. Close your eyes. But yes. Do you have any other questions? Anyone on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram? Otherwise, I would share one that we received this afternoon.
Yes, please do.
From Caroline Go. I read it out loud, yeah? My question for today is about identity. Is it common for bilingual, multilingual children to struggle with identity? We speak English at home and live in Italy, you remember maybe. My almost 4-year-old prefers English and English-speaking people, even though he goes to a local Italian preschool. Now, we are considering getting my Italian husband to speak to him in Italian when they are outside of home. The reason why we are considering this is because my son is behind his peers on a social level. So not linguistic level, social level. I would like to hear your thoughts about very young children's identity, social skills, and bilingualism, multilingualism. Thank you. And then she might be following us, maybe not. As we are talking here on the platform of Raising Multilinguals Live, I would like to remind you that we had an interview with Nair Ibrahim on, let me just say, negotiating identity in multilingual contexts. That was more in the context of schools. But she was telling, I think it's episode 27 or 28, something. Yeah. And she was talking about the fact that the languages are always linked to person, places, experiences. But she was talking, I think, about older children, so children who already go to school. Whereas your child is 4 years old. And sometimes children around that age, they are very strict about separating the languages or with language preferences in certain settings. Probably he is, he's considering English his safety blanket language. That's the one that the parents are speaking and where he feels confident and comfortable with. I don't know your son, so you can judge about that. What do you think, Tetsu?
When people ask me about identity and its association with language, I try to think of, I try to talk about identity including languages, but more of a personal, holistic view of identity. You're not a Japanese just because you speak Japanese, but it's everything that has to do with that culture and everything that surrounds a life as a Japanese, and also it's deeply rooted, I think, in the confidence that you have. So it's indirect. Like if you're a confident person overall, then you have a strong identity, irrespective of which language you're speaking. And so I try not to just say because this language you're strong and this language you're not as strong, then they have identity issues strictly on that level.
Yes, and especially we're talking about a 4-year-old, but even if we were talking about a 15 or 16 or 20-year-old, the fact is that the identity is something hybrid. It's something that changes depending on the context that you are. We are not the ones that we were when we were 4 years old. We relate to our languages and to everything in everyday world differently than then. But if this is a phase of your son where he really prefers English, I would not force him or deny him to speak only English with him. Well, you would speak English with him at home because that's your language and that's the language that you have chosen as a family language. But I would not say, I don't understand you if you don't reply in Italian, for example, when you are out and about. Yeah. If this is not something that he needs at the moment, it might be that there is something going on at the daycare or anything else.
Yes.
But I try to always say, well, we were talking about this with Yoshito, right? He had some posts about being half Japanese, half French. Instead of having this kind of approach, having more the approach of inclusivity and saying, yeah, you're not only this, but you are also this other. So you are the different facets of it. But children that are around 4 years old, they start realizing that others are different or that they are different from them. And sometimes they want to be different or they need that feeling, and other times they want them to fit in.
Yes.
So this is a very delicate situation. I remember when I was 4 years old.
You remember that?
Yes, I remember very vividly because where one episode where I came home very cross and I said to my mom, we were living in Italy and we were talking German at home, and I was cross because our neighbor, the boy we were playing with, he was our age. And he didn't reply in German. I apparently during the play, so I was talking to him in German. I just switched to German because maybe I was tired, and I was very cross that he wouldn't reply in German. And after that, my mom said, "Yeah, actually, everyone is speaking Italian around us. It's just us who speak German at home as well." And I remember that very vividly because then I went out and I excused myself. Said, I didn't know that you don't speak German. And then the magic happened because he said, I would like to. So we started teaching him a few words of German. And that was a little bit a light bulb moment. I don't know.
Again, that's really inspirational because once again, that's a great example of it's not necessarily, this confidence thing is not necessarily just the level of the language, but it's there's so much factors that play into it, which is also the good news because there's different aspects, different angles that you could attack this problem of lack of confidence, which translates into identity crisis issues. So lots of times, I try to think of my kids, as just kids, not multilinguals or not polyglots, but just kids, and try to think about how I can boost their confidence in life, how I could get them to have emotional stability in life, and that also helps in all the languages. So that's my approach. Hope that helps.
I would observe a little bit also the social environment. So what are people saying when he speaks English? How are they responding to it? Are they welcoming him or not? Maybe someone made an observation about what he's saying and how he's saying it in Italian, and he's a bit intimidated. That can also happen. I mean, we never know. Oh, Carolina, you're here. If I get my Italian, so I will share this on the other sides, not on Instagram. If I get my Italian husband to switch language from English to Italian, would it compromise my son's bilingualism? No. Should we just wait until his social skills catch up? He's not making friends and often speaks English around his Italian peers. They complain they can't understand him. Strangely, he doesn't seem to care. Okay.
So I believe they live in Italy.
Yes, they live in Italy, and the father speaks Italian as well, but he doesn't speak Italian with the son. So it's English only at home, and then Italian outside of home.
And how old is the child?
4 years old.
4 years old?
Yes, I would rather try to find out what makes him be so resistant. So have you ever invited these friends or children of his age or slightly older who speak Italian to your home? Does he have cousins maybe close by that could visit, so that he understands that Italian is a language that is necessary? I imagine that he hears you speak Italian and your husband speak Italian in the community. I have so many questions.
But I always want to ask about the age, because the older they get, obviously it gets harder and harder to really bring them to the side that you want them to be on.
Yes.
So at 4, I think it's still time to switch from English to Italian. It'll be a little adjustment for Dad, but at least he's going from second language to first language, which is an easier adaptation than the other way around.
And one thing that I'm also reading outside of what you're asking, Carolina, is you're saying that he's having troubles with social skills. I would ask many questions. What kind of social skills are you meaning? So does this mean that he doesn't really connect with other children, not even with gestures or with smiles? Does he look at other children or not? Is he not playing with other children in Italian or Italian-speaking children? And why not? Does he have peers he plays with in English? Maybe he prefers playing other games with English-speaking friends than the Italian ones. So then it is a question of adapting to the other group and understanding how the dynamics and the language and the whole play culture, I call it like that sometimes, because there are different ways to play in different cultures and different languages. So that might be something that he's experiencing very, very, very much at the moment. But I would not, actually, if your husband has always spoken English with him, I would not switch to Italian.
No?
No.
Do you mean you would not switch suddenly, or do you mean like you would not switch?
Suddenly, really? Not suddenly. Maybe outside of the home, because if it's the emotional language, it's a language that the father is having this bond with him, and it apparently is giving the child a sense of closeness and of coziness and where he's at home. If all of a sudden the father uses Italian, it might be that he feels even more extraneated from the father. Then it's like a punishment.
You think he could smoothly transition over a period of time?
Very smoothly, and I would start, if I would start, outside of home, yes, going to a play group or playground and speak Italian then.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. I fully agree that it's not something you just suddenly do. If the first thing, you have to take care of the heart. You have to take care of the heart. The emotion of the child is really top priority. So
yeah, and she's responding actually to some of my questions. Sorry that I always come up with so many questions, but she says, yes, we sometimes invite children around, but he often speaks to us instead of engaging with them. So he's using the parents as a bridge to communicate with them. Exactly. He doesn't like talking and playing with other children. He's quite solitary and prefers building things. He does definitely prefer English-speaking children. It would be an outside of the home switch. Yeah, it would be an outside of the home switch. And I would also say it's a communication style that he has that is more maybe more the observer and more the quiet child. And of course, then being maybe in a setting where everyone is very chatty and maybe they know each other and they're very fluent in the language, you can easily feel like the outsider, excluded. So I would increase the time that he spends outside of home, immersed with the father, which is a trust figure for him, and maybe introduce some. I always start with Italian songs because I haven't seen a child yet that doesn't like songs, right? So to get him used to Italian in a fun way, but yeah, it's more complex.
So it was mentioned somewhere that the father figure here is very strong as an emotional dependency on the father, more than the mom, or is this
no.
Just that? Because we often hear about fathers being much less present, much less influential in the child's life at the early stage.
At the early stage, but he's not that early anymore. Or it depends, especially considering the last years. And he's a child who was born before the pandemic and probably spent a lot of time with the parents. So this kind of situation during that time is quite defining how our children or the youngest ones are growing up. So if he doesn't have siblings or cousins around that he was playing with, then the social factor becomes very difficult. If all of a sudden you are in a group that everyone is speaking another language, it can be intimidating.
But he did grow up in Italy, right?
Yes.
He spent most of his time inside. It is the community language, and if they intend on living in Italy for the foreseeable future, going outside is definitely a great way to increase exposure and really transition over to Italian rather smoothly and quickly. And in a sense, I do agree that since they're living in Italy, it's like almost inevitable that he will eventually speak Italian. Then dad would become actually a rare source of English input, so that he could simply stay in English. He's very comfortable with English anyways.
Yes. And I think in one of her previous comments at another setting where we were, where she shared a little bit about the situation, she said they decided to have English as the family language because it's a minority language where they're living. So that's a great way to increase, let's say, also the input that comes only from the parents and some friends. I understand, but yes. Making it more appealing for the child to speak Italian, such a beautiful language. So, yeah.
I took Italian at the university solely, uniquely, exclusively, because I thought it was a very nice sounding language, very melodious.
Molto melodioso, molto bello.
I love it when they speak like this.
Yeah, but very stereotypical. And with many hands, yes. I always hide my hands on the table because otherwise you would see me gesticulate all the time. Or she's replying.
Wow, it really is like that, Hai capito?
Certo che ho capito, altro che. So Carolina says, "Oh, wow, thank you for your advice, Ute. I feel you already know my son." Oh, I would love to. No, he likes both of us equally, of course, yeah. And though the first few years he preferred me, the mother, yeah. Yes, Tetsu, it's kind of a peculiar program, yeah. Yes, I would observe and see a little bit how you can help him become more confident in understanding first, maybe not push him too much to speak, but understand what others are saying. And then slowly introduce him maybe one-on-one with other children, because I know, as you describe him, he's more the observer, more the one who stays a little bit in the background. And then on top of that, there is a language barrier. Having one-on-one situations with children that are also not too chatty might be a good
language
approach.
Barrier. If we go back to Janice Nakamura's session, about receptive bilinguals, right?
Yes.
He probably understands most, if
I
not
imagine
all,
that
of
he
what's going
understands.
on.
Yeah.
It could simply be a switch
Mm-hmm.
somewhere down the road. If you just give him enough exposure, as long as he understands everything, one day there's that mindset change. He decides that Italian is the most wonderful language in the world. It's just gonna he's just gonna let the dam.
We won't stop him anymore.
That's highly likely, probable.
Yes.
If you just live in Italy and have so much exposure to the language, anyways, I wouldn't
Yeah.
worry so much in that situation.
But I understand we had this previously, right? Italian when we are among Italian-speaking people, it can be very quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And very quickly overwhelming if you don't understand every single sentence, because I say, and words are maybe cut in half or something, or Spanish as well, or Greek. So the pace is very fast compared to English. English is more calm, or at least it comes across calmer than Italian. So that is also something that needs to be taken into account. Great questions today. Wow.
Yes, thank you
It's
very much.
amazing. Thank you
I'm
so
having
much.
trouble with my Instagram comments. I only see just a little strip, and I know that if you press on it, you could kind of
I see them.
get a higher. But I don't know how to do that.
I see them. And I had there is a conversation between Sharon and Saskia about the kindergarten, the children who speak German and English and respond or not. Thank you, Sharon. Yes, with the songs. Songs are really a little bit my lasso nella manica in Italian. I don't know how to say it in English, but whenever children are a bit reluctant of speaking or of approaching a language, I always say, is there a song that is like, something that they like to listen to? One of those songs that children hear everywhere at the daycare maybe or wherever, and that they want to listen 1,000 times. I know it gets boring for us maybe at some point, but that helps them also to get more familiar with the sound, with the intonation, and then also with singing the song with the person who's singing it. That helps also smoothen a little bit the step towards the language. But I don't know what I'm
saying. All right. Well, we sort of dived right into lots of these questions. We didn't have so much time to talk about what we did this past week, what's coming up, how's it going? but we're happy to entertain all these questions from you guys. It's it is why we're here, right? Every week we thought we would share an hour of our time and our thoughts. If it could be of any help to anybody out there, it'll be worth our while, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure that there are so many questions that can be asked or experiences that can be shared, and we can take something out of them all. It helps everyone.
That's right. And
I see that Annabelle is watching. Hi, Annabelle.
Hello. Once again, shout out to everybody on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So I don't know. It's already 1:45.
It's 1:45.
And what do you think? Do we have any other questions? Do you have any topics you wanted to talk about?
Ask it now or wait for next week? No. or ask
hold your
it for
truth until next week.
Yes. But
we're so glad to have these interactions with our followers. So thank you for joining. And once again, we'll be here every week. 3 out of the 4 weeks will be on this format, this informal little chat, relaxed session, talking about everything and anything that has to do with kids and raising them in multiple languages. And one of those weeks in the month, the third Tuesday specifically, is when we have a guest come in from oftentimes from the university or otherwise certain institutions. So we'll have experts in the field of languages and linguistics, come talk to us about their thoughts and how to raise multilingual kids. So that's the Tuesday, third Tuesday of the month. Who's our next guest again?
It's Annick de Houwer.
Annick de Houwer. It's been a while since we saw Annick. We've got another big topic with her, so that's coming up on the 20th or the 21st?
No, the 20th. And that 20th, will be a Thursday.
Actually a Thursday.
Yeah, we have to for this month to switch the third Tuesday with the third Thursday, both with the T.
Thursday. There you go. No, don't get confused. It'll be the Thursday 20th for this month. Okay, so hopefully you guys can come, but otherwise we're here on every Tuesday except that third one. And if not, let's wish everybody a great end of their day and rest of their afternoon here in North America.
And here in the Netherlands, exactly, and also here in the Netherlands.
And I saw that news that you put up. There was a derailment right near your place there.
Yeah.
Hope everybody's okay. I mean, I did see there was one casualty with a few injured.
Yes, there were 19, 20 injured, and
because they had a few in the U.S. It was terrible accidents. So.
Yes.
Anyways, our thoughts are with them.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Well, we'll talk to you again, everybody, next week. Until then, take care of yourself. Okay.
Yes.
Bye-bye now.
Take care and enjoy your languages. Bye.
On this side.